Hi everyone, this is Perfume Coast, so welcome to my channel. I continue talking about perfume profiles, and today it's all about fruity profile, and specifically about cherry. So without further ado, let's jump into the ocean of perfumes. And the first perfume I'd like to talk about is called Vicebom by Simone Andreoli. And very quickly, let's take a quick look at the notes that Romantica is listing. So on the top we've got cherry, red fruits and caramel. In the middle there's vanilla, sugar and ylang ylang. And finally in the base there's tonka, amber and precious woods. This cherry is your thick, sweet and loud cherry. It's syrupy and a bit powdery. The comparison that comes to mind is this gooey, thick, sweet cherry jam or syrup. The fragrance is straight up gourmand and delicious. It's not the likes of cherry juice or real cherry fruit. This cherry is very sugary, also reminding of maraschino cherry, because I can definitely detect a bit of alcohol-like ingredient that's rather a hint here than a quality though. And as the perfume progresses, it gets vanilla-y, reminding now the slightly tart but still extremely sweet sugary cherry with a good dollop of custard cream perhaps. Further association, perhaps the one that's in the deep dry down, would be sweet cherry crumble with a custard cream or vanilla ice cream on the side. And probably it's this imagery that stays with you till the very end. And that would be about 8 hours, well, at least as far as I'm concerned. In my view, this perfume is very unisex, obviously appealing to women due to all the gourmand-forward qualities, but also to men due to ambery faucets that this scent has to it. Next up is another beautiful release dedicated to cherry. It's a release by the brand Guerlain and it's called Le Petite Robe Noire Absolue. And again, very quickly, let's have a look at the notes that Romantica is landing. So on the top we've got cherry, obviously, almond and bergamot. In the middle there's smoke, rose, tea and iris. And finally in the base there's leather, patchouli and tonka bean. This cherry is quite something different. From the very opening you get smoky leather with a good addition of natural tart cherry. This cherry is not overly sweet, and again it shares the territory with smoky leather accord equally. So the image I'm getting is this smoky leather jacket with a bit of natural cherry juice spilled over this jacket. This leather accord borders with this slightly animalic territory, but never actually enters it. This perfume is also quite powdery, all due to the presence of iris note, of course. I can also detect a bit of patchouli, which is done in an interesting way here, as it seems to bridge the two main accords of cherry and smoky leather in here. I cannot necessarily smell rose listed among the notes, but there's definitely something that softens quite sharp leathery and tart cherry accords. The longevity is great, about 8 hours, and despite being marketing to women, the scent is very unisex and for a good reason. Traditional smoky leather vibe may be attractive to men, and women will definitely be drawn by beautiful cherry nature of this leathery scent. This perfume is not a gourmand release at all to my nose, and also the smokiness is very long-lasting in here. So what you're left with in the deep dry down is this smoky cherry with a touch of patchouli, and leathery accord gets quieter, or rather better blended in, to this beautiful cherry-forward bouquet. Next up is yet another cherry-forward release by the house Yves Saint Laurent, and it's called Overred. And of course, very quickly, let's have a look at the notes that Romantica is listing. No surprises there. We've got cherry on the top, also green mandarin. In the middle there's jasmine, orange blossom and black tea. And finally in the base there's Madagascar vanilla, coffee and Indonesian patchouli leaf. So this one is a beautiful cherry fragrance. From the very start it gives off tones of vanilla that's smooth, sweet and creamy, But of course, this vanilla has a red fruity quality to it, which nicely connects it to the name of the fragrance. And this fruity quality is coming from cherry, of course. Along with cherry fruitiness, you can clearly smell a bit of coffee, but neither cherry nor coffee are main acts here. So primary note is this creamy sweet vanilla emphasized by cherry-coffee combo. But as far as the hierarchy, so to speak, within this combo is concerned, it's cherry first and then coffee, at least to me. So to me, there's a bit of similarity to Simone and Andreoli release, but if in that one cherry dominates, here it's rather about vanilla than cherry, but where cherry is still very detectable, but not the focal point as said before. So the imagery would be this vanilla ice cream with just a bit of cherry jam thrown on the top, and maybe there is a cup of hot espresso nearby this ice cream sundae dessert. This, in my view, leans slightly feminine, all due to true gourmand smooth qualities, but again, you do you, therefore no restrictions whatsoever in this respect. The longevity is very decent as well, about 6 hours, and closer to the dry down, vanillary aspect gets drier, so to speak, and at this point the fragrance is rather a smooth perfumy take on the dessert image that I've mentioned earlier. Next up is a very popular release by the house BDK, and it's called Rouge Smoking. So, and as always, let's get reminded of the notes that Fragrantica is listing in here. Of course, on the top we've got cherry, also pink pepper and bergamot. In the middle there's black vanilla husk, heliotrope and orange blossom. And finally in the base there's tonka bean, cashmere wood, white musk, ambroxan, violet and labdanum. So this well-known perfume, contrary to multiple reviews, is the least cherry forward to my nose. To me, the opening gives off vanillary wheat flour vibe with addition of red fruit. Perhaps wheat flowery effect is due to the presence of iris and heliotrope that traditionally deliver this powdery quality. So the imagery would be this mixture of wheat flour, vanilla and a bit of cherry or some red fruit before you actually add butter for baking a nice red berry crumble. Another association would be this red berry vanilla fizzy drink, the likes of Dr. Pepper for example, but without strong almondy quality. And since this video is dedicated to cherry-like perfumes, if I have to think of a cherry specifically, this would rather be interpretation of cherry rather than cherry as such. This cherry doesn't have much of tartness or distinct almondy quality, as the case may be. This cherry is overly red, touch sweet, vanillary, quite powdery, and smooth around edges. On my skin, the longevity is good, about 6 hours, and in my view, this one is quite unisex, as it's not overly sweet, this way catering to anyone who fancies well-blended but complex fragrances. Next up, along the similar lines, is the release by the brand Kayali, and it's called Lovefest Burning Cherry. And as always, let's take a quick look at the notes that Fragrantica is listing here. Again, on the top we've got black cherry, raspberry and bergamot. In the middle we've got praline, heliotrope, damask rose and jasmine sambac. And finally in the base says Palo Santo, tonka bean, guaiac wood, Peru balsam, ambretolide, patchouli and Haitian vetiver. So this cherry to me is all about cherry pit rather than cherry pulp of the fruit. And cherry pits, of course, have this distinct almondy fresh quality that largely determines the scent of a cherry the way we know it. And extremely well blended is exactly the wording that comes to mind whenever I smell this perfume. I think of cherry as such, it would be this not so sweet berry, perhaps the one that hasn't quite ripened yet. No, it doesn't smell sour or green, but rather something in between cherry blossom and fully ripened fruit, where cherry pit prevails as far as the smell goes. As the scent goes, it gets a bit smoky and balmy quality, but these are very toned down and do not in any way jump out of the composition. In fact, they're hardly detectable at all, and I suppose they just serve a blending tool in here. To a certain extent, this one reminds me of BDK release because of the fact that cherry in here is not your traditional one, but rather, again, a perfumer's interpretation of this note. I can also smell a bit of ambery quality, giving off this touch of sweetness through the presence of amberotolite, perhaps. Closer to the dry down, the combination of praline and amber accords start to give off these subtle gourmand associations, such as alcohol-free red fruit sweet cocktail, for instance. But overall, this release is rather, again, a perfumed take on a gourmand territory. So overall, very unisex, red fruit vanillary, fresh, cherry pit forward perfume that also has a decent longevity on my skin, again, about 6 to 7 hours. And the final fragrance for today's video would be Mancera's release, which is called quite simply Cherry Cherry. And as always, let's take a quick look at the notes that Fragrantica is listing. So here what we've got on the top is black cherry, bergamot and lemon. In the middle there's patchouli, heliotrope, orris root and jasmine. And finally in the base there's vanilla pod and white musk. Well, as far as this fragrance is concerned, this perfume, when it came out, it came across as very polarizing. But to me, it's simply great. This perfume is quite a sharp citrusy cherry that, to my nose, also has a bit of camphoric-like herbaceous quality, the likes of eucalyptus or something. However, there are no notes of eucalyptus or other herbs for that matter, so probably it's an extreme citrusiness blended by top notes of bergamot and lemon that give off this quality to me. But because of this utter citrusness, this perfume delivers the impression of a juicy tart perfumey cherry. I wouldn't say that's how real cherry smells, so yes, there may be a bit of synthetic quality to some, but to me it's rather a mix of fresh juicy citruses and tart cherries that probably has been adapted to a laundry detergent, and alongside fruity combo like that, you have utter cleanliness coming either from synthetic ingredients added or some sort of camphoric herbs. Overall, quite an interesting and in a way unique take on a cherry that I personally enjoy wearing whenever I need my cherry that's very present but sparkly, invigorating and tart, catering precisely to a summer season. Needless to say that this perfume is very unisex and catering beautifully to a warmer season or climate, but of course due to the strong presence of this scent, it can certainly be worn in cold environment. Oh yes, nearly forgot, the longevity is very Mancera-like, it's a true all-day wear. So, as said before, this has been the last fragrance for today's video. If you like this video, guys, please give it a like, please consider subscribing. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye bye!